on YouTube. Uh, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the bi-weekly HamSci Telecon. Nice to have everyone. Why don't we go around really quickly and give a quick update. And then on the agenda today, what we're going to talk about is Gary and Jim have been working on documentation on how to actually build the grape. And so they'll present that and we'll talk about where we might put that on the HamSci website. I know Joe W7LUX has also been collecting data and working on the grape project too. So I'm sure he'll have some input. So things are going fine here in Scranton. As I mentioned, we are at the end of the semester and just trying to get that final push through to classes. So, one other comment. I'm thinking of going into more of a summer schedule now that the semester's finishing up. And by that, I think we might not have the 3 p.m. Thursday biweekly telecons during the summer. Instead, we'll encourage people to attend either the Monday night Tapper meeting or the Thursday morning Case Western Reserve meeting. And a lot of these same discussions that we've been having here are happening on those meetings. And that'll just help to clean up the schedule a little bit. But people are still very much welcome to join in and participate those. And then we can start up the HamSci regular telecons back in the fall. So with that, why don't I turn it over to Jim, K4BSC.
Okay. Gary and I have been working on the page for the HamSci, kind of a help desk page. And let's see if I could share my screen. I'll put that up.
Why don't we let's just do a quick introductory comment.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
Then as soon as we finish the introductory comments, then we'll go into you screen sharing.
Okay, I'm sorry. I jumped the gun. I was
that's okay.
I was too anxious. Anyway, Jim Farmer, K4BSC, been licensed. I don't want to tell you how long, but I was not quite 13 when I got my novice license.
Oh, so for 20 years.
Yeah, right. I wish. Wow, I wish. 20 plus about 40 more plus. Anyway, master's in electrical engineering, bachelor's and master's from the University of South Florida, way back in the Stone Ages, and spent most of my professional career designing and supervising the design of cable TV equipment. But by the time we got to surface mount, I didn't have to do the bloody boards anymore. And retired a few years ago and was looking for something to sink my teeth into, and it looks like this could be it. Okay.
All right. Go ahead. How about Don, KI4KGX?
Thank you, Nathaniel. Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. Again, it's wonderful to attend another HamSci meeting. And that I'm looking forward to the presentation of the grape receiver here this afternoon. I've been doing a little bit of more frequency calibration, frequency measuring, and going back to those textbooks about the fast Fourier transform, how that's processing and benchmarking some software that you're all, I'm sure, familiar with, and going back and relearning what we learned in first or second year university, such an ancient time ago, but it's always enjoyable to go back and rethink about these fundamental problems of measuring data with noise. I mean, that's our whole life, whether it's in amateur radio or politics. And I'll leave it at that and go no further. It's always a pleasure, Nathan. Back to you, and I'll let you turn it over to the next gentleman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Don. Gary, AF8A.
Yeah, good afternoon. Gary, AF8A here. I'm one of the retirees here in the group. It's been just over 3 years and about a week since I've been retired. I spent a last 20 so years of my career in systems development and maintenance for manufacturing. So this is a little bit different. Takes me back to my days in R&D back in the late 80s. So that's it for today.
Thank you very much, Gary. Bill, AB4EJ.
Thanks, Nathaniel. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Bill Engelke, a double E from Virginia Tech and master's in industrial systems from University of Alabama at Huntsville. I'm currently with the University of Alabama. I retired several places, but I'm allowed to come back and work part-time. So I'm heading up the software development for the Tangerine. And a couple of things I've been working on, stress testing the grape when running with GNU radio, collecting data, a spectrum of data and saving it in digital RF format. And we had some problems with the system crashing, and just recently discovered the problem is with the hard drive that I was using, the format of it was such that once it went past a certain size of number of files, it would crash the operating system. But working with a different hard drive, so it has now been able to survive several days of running. So hopefully that's okay. Nathaniel gave me some software this morning. I've been testing with doing some plotting of that data with the idea of being able to plot a whole day at a time. Nathaniel, I've noticed that this thing's pretty slow to run. To do 16 minutes worth of data took about 2 hours on the Raspberry Pi. And I don't know, is that the same? Did you see the same kind of performance when you were doing your analysis?
For doing the plotting?
Yes.
16 hours for how many?
No. 16 minutes of data, it took 2 hours to plot.
Oh, that seems high to me. 60 minutes of data, 2 hours to plot. That seems, I never did it on a Raspberry Pi.
Okay.
But
Well, I'm
that sounds like a
copying
long
the data.
time.
I'm copying the data over to my big system. I'm going to run it on a virtual machine on, I got a Windows box that has VMware, and I'm able to run Ubuntu and much higher performance processor. So we'll see how that does. But just a couple of days worth of data, it takes a couple of hours even to copy it off the hard drive. This may be a problem hard drive performance too. This hard drive that I have it's one of these pocket ones that is not designed for high performance. So let's see how it does on a bigger system. Also been doing some work with the Tangerine, testing uploading of completed data. My students have got it working to where it's possible to, well, long story, but the upshot of it is a science user is able to put in a request for all the connected stations to upload a bookend of package of data from the ring buffer. I've got it so it will pick that out. It will request it. The local host does a heartbeat. When it does a heartbeat, if there's data that's being requested, it gets that in the heartbeat request. Then it packages that data and it compresses it and uploads it. So that stuff is basically working. I just got to play around with, making sure permissions are right and all this and that. But the underlying guts of it is working. So that's where we are. Back to net.
Thank you very much, Phil. That sounds great. Let's go to the other Bill, N8ET.
Can you hear me all right?
We sure can.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Bill Kelsey, N8ET. I'm double E from Cornell, back same time period in the spark gap when they invented dirt days. So it's been a long time since I saw the fast Fourier transforms and that kind of thing. I'm teaching part-time at the local community college, fancy E equals IR course and a little AC electronics, and once in a while a solid state electronics course. So that's my professional background. I didn't actually use a double E degree. I worked for Marathon Oil Company for my whole career, retired about 20 years ago, and I was in auditing and the IT systems department. I just finally finished a 40-meter CW transceiver, so I've been working on practicing my soldering skills, and I don't want to hear anybody complain about Tories anymore. I'm winding Tories one-handed, left-handed, and that's a trick. Believe me. Took about 3 or 4 hours to do 3 or 4 little toroids for that things. But I finally finished it today. Now I just got to get 12 volts up here to with the right connector on it and see what the thing sounds like on an antenna. So I'm looking forward to the the talk on the grape, because I've got the 3 PC boards and the parts downstairs. I'm looking at that, trying to decide what to do to get started on it. So I'm about to jump in. So back to you.
Thanks so much, Phil. That sounds great. John, N8OBJ.
Oh, boy. I'm John N8OBJ. See, I was licensed in 91. My background is I'm an analog design engineer. I spent 35 years in industry. I've even got an ASIC design under my belt. Although I spent 20 years of my career at Keithley Instruments, and my specialty was electrometer design. So I'm used to doing very, very low level current measurements down in femtoamps and attoamps. Also have their current, I think it was DMM 7510, which is their latest touchscreen DMM. I designed the voltage reference system in there, as well as part of the front end analog electronics for it. So I'm very well based in doing measurements and measurement testing and measurement verification and the really difficult stuff. Also spent 6 years designing hardware for test fabs, measuring wafers on production lines in class 10 clean rooms. So that's my background. Right now I've got my bachelor's and master's from Case back in the early 80s. I am now the lab director for the undergraduate design lab at Case Western, and I have typically 300 to 400 students come through my lab every week. Well, it has not been the case with the COVID stuff. It's my job to teach them practical engineering, which end of a soldering iron to start with and then work up from there. I am currently doing grading on senior projects, which I've got 60 some students I have to go through yet. But I also designed the first pass of the Grape 1 receiver. And just to be absolutely clear, this was a prototype for a design concept preview. It was never intended to be a production board. I just unfortunately did too good of a job on the first pass, and it got out there, and now you guys are building it. So in terms of soldering, the thing I can offer is if you solder one end of the part with a solder blob and then take your tweezers, heat up the solder blob and slide the part into it. That's the way I put surface mount parts on. It works really well, especially for the small profile parts, like aligning and figuring out on ICs, either they'll have the little white dot by pin 1 or they'll have a chamfer on one side, which is the pin 1 side. And this always starts the upper left corner and goes counterclockwise for numbers. So that's how you identify parts, and they're getting harder and harder to identify because of they're getting smaller and smaller. I am currently working on Grape version 2. I'm in the process of doing the analog front end preamplifier design chain, which is also going to have a side benefit of the first prototype will be a preamplifier with 1 input and 4 buffered amplified outputs, which will be very nice for running a whole slew of SDR radios sitting in Nathaniel's workshop. And for Bill, they're going to be my guinea pigs. Right now, it looks like it works fine from 10 kilohertz or 100 kilohertz to, see, what was the upper frequency? I think it took it up to 100 megahertz. It was pretty flat band. You got a nice phase response, but that was my first stab at it. And I'm in the process of putting it on a noise figure meter to figure out what I need to tweak that. So I guess that's enough rambling for now. Back to net.
Thank you very much, John. Very good report there. Dave, W60Q.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, so I'm about 5 years retired now from DirecTV, where I did pretty much everything in terms of design and design reviews of our products went into homes, so consumer electronics. My career has been mostly in consumer electronics, so making things work well with minimum number of parts and whatever, covering, digital microprocessors, analog, RF, antennas, the whole thing. That's me.
Thank you so much, Dave. And Bob, WK2Y.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear my audio? Good. I'm the outlier here. I am the public health statistician. And I'd love to crunch numbers. I retired from the CDC in 2016. I've consulted for a few years and kept meaning to wrap it up, but life kept seeming to intervene, and hopefully we'll be wrapped up here shortly. I don't do surface mount. I love kits, but I only do through hole. So I don't know if that has any implications for what you guys are doing, grape or otherwise, but do keep it in mind. I've gotten resistors successfully, or whatever they call them in surface mount technology, successfully mounted on with surface mount, but chip, I've never had much luck. It's taken 2 or 3 tries and a quick email back to the kit supplier and said, could you send me another one? And so I can try again. I will say though, I just recently obtained a Haku desoldering iron, and because although it's rare, I do occasionally make mistakes. And to put it mildly, that thing sucks, but in a good way. So that's about it. Go ahead, Nathaniel. Oh, before I go, Nathaniel, do
Yes.
not neglect to mention your XYL's accomplishment.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'll show that to everyone in a minute. I can bring that up. And Dave McGaw, N1HAC.
Hi, everyone. David McGaw, N1HAC. Currently a research engineer at Dartmouth College. I have a master's in physics from Dartmouth some years ago, but I've been designing and building radios and audio equipment since I was a kid. So I have a lot of experience with electronics and have held many different hats, including principal engineer on a high-end music synthesizer called the Synclavier for many years. And then various consulting work in the pro audio industry, and worked for as an applications engineer for analog devices. And in fact, Dave's W6OQ, I don't know if we met, but we did supply DirecTV BTSC TV stereo encoder for at least one line of products. And then currently we do propagation and ionospheric research in Aurora. I've got instruments in much of the polar regions, North Alaska, Canada. We used to be in Greenland. They shut that facility down. We have stuff down in Antarctica, and also do sounding rockets and balloons to study the upper atmosphere and both radio and X-ray auroras. In fact, we have a rocket that I have a rocket that'll be flying the end of this month from Wallops, sister to the one they're trying to get off the ground right now, but they've had to scrub a few days. And one thing I'll mention is that one man's noise is another man's signal. And we do a lot of work with what appear to be noises coming from the aurora, but they're signal to us. So it's very definitely an interesting job separating what are other people's signals, which are our noise, and the what people see as noise that are our signals. So back to Nat.
Thank you very much, Dave. That's great. Steve Serwin, WA5FRF.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just got back from New Mexico. I'm just tired, not retired. Still teach these antenna courses 4 times a year, and this last one was a week and a half out in the Badlands of New Mexico. And while I was there, I got a pinched nerve in my back, which made the last 3 or 4 days of teaching an experience, as well as the 9-hour drive home. Anyway, I just got back from the doc's office this morning analyzing MRIs and x-rays. And it's amazing that out of all the vertebrae in my back, there's exactly one that does not have the word severe that precedes what follows. So anyway, I've been dealing with that. I spent a career at Southwest Research Institute. I'm an experimental physicist, licensed in '63. Built lots and lots of instruments of all kinds that test and measure different physical quantities and acquire data one way or another, as well as teaching these antenna courses. And I spent 15 years teaching electrical engineering at St. Mary's University as well. So broad background in electronics and instrumentation. Just got through delivering an instrumentation system that was presented before the client this Monday, successfully. So that was cool. Got good feedback on that one. And I'm right now in the midst of building a production for me run of 10 of these antennas I developed for a special application. They're dual band trap antenna with a kind of a neat wrinkle on how to make the traps to cover 2 frequencies at once when you're up at UHF. So haven't had a lot of time for HAMSI recently, but hopefully I'll get my head above water here pretty soon.
Thank you so much, Steve. Mike, AA8K.
Well, thank you, Nathaniel. I only hold a Bachelor of Arts, and I'm entering my 60th year of amateur radio back in 1961. Still alive. My career is alternated between hardware and software. I've been in broadcast and worked with American Satellite on commercial uplinks, Fairchild, USA Today, broadcast, land mobile radio, and software. I'm a systems programmer. We wrote compilers, languages, all that sort of thing. And soldering, just this week, I had to solder grab a signal off of a CPU chip. There was no other place to grab it. The only other place that appeared on the board was a resistor that was mounted underneath the CPU chip. So I used this solder, and this stupid solder is wider than the 2 pins that I was trying to solder to. That's a real challenge. Back to you, Nathaniel.
Oh my gosh, that does sound like a challenge. Wow. And finally, Joe, W7LUX.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. It's lunchtime out here, but first license back in the mid-50s. Been putting together kits ever since. Kits and designing my own stuff. Couldn't afford to buy a Collins or anything fancy like that. I had to do my own, and using those things called valves or tubes or something or other. Anyway, I probably assembled somewhere between 50 and 100 kits over the many years, and offered to help out with the GRAPE project. I've got a GRAPE receiver running, collecting data, and offer to help people figure out why theirs may or may not work, or something like that. Another twist has come up. I spent a fair number of years in precise time and frequency, and I've got a number of 5 meg and 10 meg standards running around here all the time. And I'm a little concerned about them getting in and affecting the data, especially when the WWV signal is quite weak. I'm only about 500 or 600 miles from Fort Collins, so the signal is generally pretty good here. But even so, I'm afraid that my standards leak, and I got to come up with some way of sorting out the data between the WWV stuff. Of course, the 500, 600 hertz tones are not being affected, but the fundamental carrier frequency is. And Nathaniel, I'm working on that. I've got an idea, and the girlfriend lives about 2,000 feet from here, And I thought I might put another grape receiver over there and then compare the results when the signal from WWV is weak. And other than that, let's see, spent time with precise time and frequency and interfacing telescopes to make them talk to the rest of the world, to talk to computers. Thanks, Nathaniel.
Thank you so much, Joe. I really appreciate that. And thank you for sending out the data earlier this week too. I can tell you that on the earlier meeting at the 10 a.m. meeting, Christina, and I know Steve Serwin, who's on this meeting, they are doing a lot to look at how to make use of those, the 500, 600 hertz tones as well, and really understand the signal beyond just the one that's right at 10 megahertz. So hopefully the things that they're doing, plus the things that you find, will help us to really have a good solution there. So with that, why don't I turn it over to Jim, and you can, between Jim and Gary, you can show us what you have, and we can figure out where we want to put this and if we need to make any adjustments or tweaks or anything like that.
Nathaniel,
Yeah.
are you
Yes.
forgetting your
Am I-
little brag?
Oh my
moment?
gosh. Thank you. Yes. So my wife, she just finished up her master's degree at NJIT. This is actually her second master's degree. So she finished her master's in applied physics at New Jersey Institute of Technology. So she got her graduation robes yesterday. And this is her second master's degree. She also has a master's in material science engineering from Virginia Tech. But that's not all. The other big news is that she won a full-time faculty position with me in the Department of Physics and Engineering at the University of Scranton. So she's going to be teaching physics, an introduction to engineering next year, starting this fall, and probably some material science courses in the future too. So this is like a super big deal. It's hard for two people to both get faculty jobs at the same university these days. So we are really excited.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's really, really nice.
That's really special. Tell her congratulations on 3 different fronts.
I will. Thank
That's
you.
great.
Thank you.
Same here. What an accomplishment.
She's worked so hard for it. She's worked really, 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 really hard. So I'm really proud of her. And she's just doing great. I would put her on, but she's in the other room with Anthony right now. So she was here at the beginning of the meeting. So
She's
I'll
off
have to-
partying still.
No, I don't know about partying, but she's making
She
sure
should be.
making sure Anthony's okay. So thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate your good wishes. I will certainly pass them on to her. So I guess Jim, I can turn it over to you now, Jim and Gary and Joe. And you're welcome to share your screen at any point. Oh, and other good news, if you go to NewYorkNYTimes.com right now, the CDC is now saying that vaccinated people can go maskless in most places. So. All right.
That includes Zoom calls?
No, Zoom calls are one of the few places that they're still saying you have to wear masks.
Trying to figure out how to permanently unmute my mic now. Just a second.
I've got some of the shorting foam. Maybe that'll work.
Am I unmuted now?
You're fine.
Okay, good. Okay, this is the page that Gary and I have been putting together to kind of serve as a introduction and place where people can come to get questions answered about their Grape Ones. And we have a committee behind us that we've already set up to that I can pass the questions on to as they come in, and we'll hopefully get them all answered in a timely manner. Right now, I'm saying send your questions to me. I need to work with Christina to get a reply form on the website to do that rather than send it to this. I keep forgetting to check that email address. I don't use it for anything except this. And then Gary contributed a group document that we have in here as a PDF that you can download at this site or read in this window. And Gary, you want to walk us through what's in that before I go ahead? I can advance the slides for you. If you want to take over, you can do it.
Yeah, no problem. No, it was just the idea to give people an introduction if they've heard about the Generation 1 grape, to what's involved in building it, to give them links and direction to get to both John's GitHub site, to Osh Park to get the blanks and that sort of thing. So it was just basically to get their feet wet, understand what's going on. Really, the links in there would probably give them enough information to build it, just as Joe did. But Jim's going a little bit more in depth here on the page with some more in-depth instructions. So you may just want to jump into those.
Okay, well, yeah, I was thinking we might go through your slides first because they do provide the information that people need, or do you want to just have people look at those on their own? Your choice.
Yeah, I think most of the people on the call are probably familiar. And I think I'd appreciate it too if people took a little time, went to the site and looked at it. And if they had suggestions or if something was unclear, let us know, then we can correct it and update it, obviously. So it's probably good that if somebody wants to, they invest a little time into looking at it.
Can you put the website address in the chat so we can click on it?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, and let's see, then this is some text that I wrote kind of to supplement what Gary had put into his slides. First is an introduction. We want you to have a good time building and enjoying the grape, but also need to let you know realistically what you're getting into. And this was my fear that people who were learning to solder on big parts would pick this up and get discouraged. And worse, would expect us to fix it. No, we're not going to fix it. So just go into the purpose of it, special purpose receiver designed to record certain data you measure and submit to HAMSci. This will provide useful guidance for the scientists and engineers leading the project, help guide future stages of the project. And I just went into a little side paragraph on the fact that progress is not as linear and as logical always as people make it out to be in the textbooks, because now you're going to be seeing it on a little bit closer basis than you might have seen it in the past. So then just a definition of what the grape is, a step leading to the grape 2, and eventually to the tangerine. It will eventually be a modular SDR with whatever capabilities prove useful. And then I wanted to emphasize here that grape is not a general purpose software designed receiver. It will not allow you to listen on the bands because it is designed for specific data collection applications. Again, try not to mislead anybody what you're getting into. And you have to have a GPS DO with it. It can tune the frequencies of 2.499, 4.999, and 9.999 megahertz, where we use it as a local oscillator. And it can also be used to tune CHU if we want to use it that way. And it needs a Raspberry Pi processor with certain support circuitry and software, which John has provided and is available. And just say that the GPS DO acts as a very stable local oscillator with WWV or another station as a carrier, the 1 kilohertz IF signal that results in mixing the LO and the carrier is filtered and either recorded or further processed, yield a signal that contains the program data of interest. For example, we can see very small variations in the LO frequency. the effects of Doppler shift as the ionosphere goes up and down with the time of day. And we cannot measure the atmosphere's height, but only the change in height. And I was distracted there because I just noticed the typo, which I will have to fix. It's not the string small variations in the LO, it's the 1 kilohertz IF frequency that we're noting. I will get that changed. And the part of the grape must be assembled is the mixer and filter. I'm not sure we refer to the whole thing as a grape one, or is it just that mixer and filter board that's the grape one? I never have known for sure. Printed circuit board, you assemble, supplies analog audio to the Raspberry Pi, which records the desired data and sends it to a server that acts as a repository for the data. I think that's the intent, isn't it? Yeah, it's then analyzed and glean data to gather data necessary to define certain reactions of the ionosphere. And talk about the mixed filter board. That this is where I go into some more words to tell you what you're getting into. The PC board has very tiny surface mounted components in it in order to keep it small. And the PC board itself is purchased from Oshpark, and parts go in and be purchased from DigiKey or another component vendor. Other components such as the Raspberry Pi and sound interface purchased from Amazon or another vendor. So you should know that the board, though small, is very dense. Components are very small. Yes, I realize they can come smaller, but to those who are not familiar with it, these are very small. Is it possible? It is possible to assemble by hand, but it's a little bit tedious. It requires patience and persistence. Not a project for beginners. Assembly directions are and will continue to be sparse and will assume prior knowledge and prior experience and skill. No step-by-step instructions. This ain't no Heath kit. We've organized this help group to help guide you as you have questions. Members are all volunteers with a good bit of experience, but we've never seen this project before either, because the whole project is new. You'll be able to email your questions related to the assembly, and using the completed project, we'll answer you by email. Please allow a reasonable amount of time to answer because, hey, we're all volunteers ourselves, the usual other responsibilities. Doing this is a labor of love. And I wanted to make sure we say what we're not going to do. We're not going to diagnose your PC board. We're not going to repair PC boards that don't work. I think that's just, I could just see too many problems if we let ourselves get into that business. And the hope is as we see questions, see where people's questions fall, we'll be able to accumulate an FAQ and put that in this section. Then I put some hints, some of mine, some I picked up from John and other people. Hints for building the board, using the pair of tweezers to hold the parts. Don't squeeze them too much as it will hold them tight. Will just give the part more energy when, not if, it slips out of the tweezers. Easiest way to solder the parts of the PC board, as John said earlier, put solder on one pad, then mount the part, soldering that lead first, followed by soldering other pins. And I found it helpful to do the assembly in a large cookie sheet with low sides on it. Not the only way, but I found that helpful because the parts, again, when, not if they escape my tweezers. The cookie sheet saved more than one part from being lost forever. Of course, there are other ways to do that too.
And you'll want to ground the cookie sheet for ESD control.
Yeah, that's a good point. I should say that too.
It's not much of a problem in the summer, but in the winter, it's nasty.
Yeah. Yeah, the way it is down here right now, we don't have that worry, but it can happen, definitely. And just to refer to the soldering station that I use and the tip that I use, but not the only ones that you can use. Just I found those to be very good for this. And I didn't want to get the note on about the mixer IC because I just about screwed that one up myself. And that's where I didn't notice John's little white circle at first, although yes, it is on there and it is in the correct place. That one, I was afraid people might need a little extra note on. And this other information, John has already made available, but I thought it would be good to get it in the same part and or same place, put everything in one place, because I kept having to go look for it myself before. This is John's list of parts, and following that is his other list of other things that you will need, the PC board and the other pieces that he recommended. And then I added 11 myself because that's really necessary. I just didn't want people to get the wrong idea. I'm thinking that these should probably be a separate file, and rather than put them into the basic web page, because it'd be easier for somebody to click on and then print these out. The reason I did it this way is because I couldn't get a hold of Christina when I was doing this, and couldn't figure out how to put them, how to get them on the same website that she had put Gary's presentation.
Yeah, because both of those documents exist as separate PDF,
Yes, they
I
do.
believe.
Yes, I agree.
So, yeah.
And then the schematic, which again exists as a separate PDF file, would be more useful to do it that way. And finally, the PC board layouts, all that from John. And that is about it, except for Gary's slide deck that he has presented. So if you see anything, going through this again today, as usual, I found a couple of errors, which I will fix.
Yeah, I just fixed one.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I saw the PEIR. You need a peer of tweezers. I changed it to
Oh,
pair.
I had not caught that one. Thank you.
I fixed that, and I mean some other things I can
Oh, yes,
potentially do. Yeah, if you hit reload, it should be okay now.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want
Tweezers.
to. Yeah, because that's TW. How do you spell tweezers?
Take the W out, it becomes teasers.
Yeah, so I can fix that
Probably more
too.
appropriate.
Okay.
Hey,
I
can I show you something too? I can fix that in a minute. If you hit edit for a minute. So usually these headers, I've been trying to use the regular header functionality. So if you go all the way to the top of the page.
Oh, okay. I haven't. Yeah, I'm not on that page. I'm just
okay. Yeah. So
reading
for like the things like getting started and the purpose, you can when you hit edit, there's a bar that says style, header 1, header 2, header 3.
Oh,
header
okay.
4. And
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay. Yeah, that usually is good practice with HTML to do that. And I can do some things too to make the embedded PDF what we call responsive. There's a little extra piece of code I can put in there that will make it grow and shrink with the web page.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And then do we want to we probably want to rotate the image too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, well, yeah, we should rotate that image. Again, I was just putting this in here to make sure I had it all in one place.
Right.
But yeah, I would like to put those PDFs on their own page and then just have somebody click and be able to pull it up. It'll be easier for people to print it out that way too.
Yeah.
Very nice job, Jim.
This looks wonderful.
Very
Thank
nice job.
But I couldn't find like I know Christina had put this one in for me. And when I tried to get back to the source page where she put that, I wasn't allowed into it.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, I've got to. I haven't circled back on that one. I should have asked her about that, and I didn't.
Okay.
I forgot about it, to tell you the truth. After I copied and pasted everything, this is just copy and paste job from another file, and I'll I'll fix that one and I'll take your advice on the headings. And I'll get that a little bit cleaned up, but I would like to make it the way I like to do web pages is no more than what can fit on the page without scrolling down, and then links to other things.
Yeah.
So I can do that and put links into the parts list and this other items list, the schematic and the PC layout, all of which already exist in suitable format.
Two
Yeah.
things on the schematic I was going to mention. The protection diode D1, which is a
Yes.
1 in 4,000, is not necessary because the LT 1671 or 1761 regulator will accept a reverse voltage up to minus 15 volts and it won't hurt it. I've tried it. The diode was a carryover from the switch mode power supply that I made for the Raspberry Pi. When you put reverse voltage on it, it became a flame emitting part, and it literally shot a flame out about 1.5 inches. It was very impressive for the board. So the 1 in 4,000, the D2 is optional. We don't really need it. And if you don't like the bright blue LED, you can change the 1K to like a 2.2K. I've had some complaints that the LED is too bright.
Yeah, it is a little bit on the bright side, but I was okay with it.
Yeah, well, I've been known to make bright lights, so it's
Usually,
Also, the parts list specifies a 4001 diode for D2.
yeah, you don't even need to put that on there.
I like the flame emitting part.
It scared me the first time I had it because I had set it up on the shelf and I actually got the battery backwards. I'm looking up there and all of a sudden I see this flame shoot out and it's like, what the?
Like, wait a minute.
Very impressive, especially
This
from a
is-
SOT 23 5-pin package. But it created board, charcoaled it and ruined it, so it was pretty impressive.
yeah, neat.
But this part on here, the 1761 will accept a reverse voltage on its input and it will not hurt anything. It pulls microamps, it just ignores it, it's protected.
Okay. Well, that diode didn't bother me too much, John. It was that darn
Yeah,
D1.
it's the only, probably one of the few through-hole parts on there.
Yeah, it's the only through-hole part on there, and it actually went on and worked. But D1, I had some thoughts about leaving it off too. I
Well,
finally got
D1,
it.
there's a trick to doing it. If you put this, it's a 3-legged part. If you
Yeah,
put
I
the
did.
solder dot on the board for the third leg, the one that's only got 1 pin, and then you hold the soldering iron on the solder and you slide it into it, and then take the soldering iron off, it makes it real easy to solder.
Yeah, I did that, but it still drove me nuts putting that thing on.
Yeah, trying to get a hold of it is tough.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's like, I forget who mentioned, I think it was Michael, called them tiddlywinks.
Yeah,
That's appropriate.
but that and the LED were the two parts I had the most trouble with.
Yeah, the LED, you got to look for that little green bar for the cathode. It's tough.
I'm going to do something to the PDF now that may either make it better or worse or somewhere in between. So
Ooh, exciting.
yeah, it's going to be a little bit of that kerpoof moment. So we'll see in a minute.
You're going to change it into Russian, I can tell.
Christina is working on that. She's the one that. All right. Hit reload now and look at the image.
One thing that
Not that. Go all the way to the top and hit reload.
one thing that I found when I was first got mine assembled.
Ah,
and-
yes. Okay, yeah, I see that. I'm sorry, go ahead. Michael, I think that was you.
I think it was Joe.
Yeah, that was me.
Okay, Jim.
Well, one thing I found when I got this thing assembled was if you set the GPS DO to 10 megahertz or 5 megahertz, depending on time of day, and you put a fairly sensitive earphone across the output, you can hear WWV, and either an earphone or a scope, and you can watch. I'm pretty familiar with WWV, so I could pretty much identify what was happening on the oscilloscope, and really easy to hear on a just a standard old headphone.
Oh, gentlemen, I have a quick question, regarding that D1 and some of the difficulties. Is the objective is to give some ESD protection to the, between the grape and the antenna and have all those bad things coming in? I mean,
Yes.
is that what we're
It's
speaking about?
it's actually for lightning strikes, ESD hits when you're handling it. And I'm trying to remember, I think there is a resistive, yeah, the R3. Let's see, wait a minute, antenna input, R1. That is actually a static electricity bleed path, because any wire that's in the air with wind scrubbing across it will generate a static charge buildup.
Sure will.
So
Yeah.
it's probably one thing we want to mention is this board should be properly earth grounded because it's getting its signal relative to the earth ground. So if this thing is floating, your sensitivity is going to drop.
Yeah.
So there really needs to be an earth ground to probably the antenna would be the best place to put it.
Yeah.
Out at the antenna. And once you've done that, everything's fine. But
So I think, John, following that argument, having some type of, dissipation path for any static that, I mean, one of the interesting things I saw recently is just static in your coax line with wind blowing along your antenna. It's a capacitor and the coax of the cable and
yeah, that little back-to-back
Uh-huh.
Zener will trigger at 5 volts. So you have a 5-volt peak signal, which is for the input is a way huge, 3 orders of magnitude overload, but it keeps the input happy so it doesn't destroy things.
Yeah, that looks excellent.
And the other problem is if you transmit something, for example, if you're using your ham shack and you don't shut it down like I do as I describe in the procedures, and your antenna is closely coupled to the input of this thing, you will fry that diode because if you're putting out a kilowatt and you're 100 feet away or 10 feet away from the antenna, that's going to get into the front end of this thing. Even though the filter should knock it down, you're going to be overloading that part. And the limitation, like as with any semiconductor, is heat. Yeah. Once you overheat it and the silicon melts, then it shorts out and then you're going to lose your input.
I think Nathaniel pointed that out in the conference prior to this, that holding up a little box from one of the vendors that addresses those problems of crosstalk between the transmitter and receiver, if I recall.
Yeah, they use gas discharge diodes, which usually trigger at about anywhere from 100 to 600 volts.
Yeah, pretty massive.
And it's way above what this thing can handle. So that's why I put in this little TVS. It's a transient voltage suppressor is what it's called.
So I mean, it's been well thought through and
I haven't blown up one yet, but I haven't beat the crap out of it yet either. So
I think it's good design.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's this, how big is the image file?
I don't remember right now, and I did this on my other computer, so I can't look at it right now.
That one it should be a PDF.
Yeah, I have a PDF on that. One of these parts lists is not in PDF form, but I can make it in that easily enough.
Well, on the website for HamSci under the documentations, I have both the source file and the PDF created from it.
Okay.
So you should get to the source if you need to. If not, let me know. I'm pretty sure I put them up there.
Well, it's not a big deal to make it if I can't find it.
One other thing I'm going to mention is in the industry, there is an IC shortage that's hitting pretty hard. I haven't seen any of these parts, but I know the switch mode power supply for running the grapes are now projected out to, I want to say it was May of 2022 before they'll ship. It's hitting the industry pretty hard because of the fabs, especially the Taiwanese fabs and what's going on in the world and stuff like that. And some of the fabs got shut down for COVID. And then they had that big fire in the one in, where was that? Was it in Taiwan? Or was
I
it
think
Japan?
so.
I think it was in Japan. They had a fab.
I think it's Japan, yeah.
That burned down. That was a major producer. So
yeah,
I know the auto industry is hurting really bad, especially Toyota and Mazda. They can't get parts to build their cars, and it's shutting down the line. So Usually it's semiconductors, resistors. If you can't find the one that's specified, you might be able to find another vendor. There's nothing special about them. I was using thick film for ESD resistance, but you can use thin film if you want to. There's no real power dissipation on these things. And the ICs, yeah, sometimes caps. For example, I couldn't get 100 ohm resistors anymore. They're completely sold out at DigiKey.
Really?
Yeah, it's just stupid stuff like that that'll shut you down. So
I just copied and pasted your part numbers, and I didn't have trouble getting them.
Yeah, the dash.
I'll tell you how wise that how wise that ESD protection is. I've been called on to troubleshoot a few systems that went down, and one of them went down to just that mechanism. And the client didn't really believe that you could develop that kind of a charge. They had a AC coupled capacitor. So I took their antenna elements, set it up in my driveway, took some, this thing was exposed to blowing dirt, snow, sand, stuff like that. So I took some ashes out of my barbecue pit, blew them across the antenna elements with a shop vac, hooked the vacuum capacitors just as a low leakage load. And I developed 600 volts on their antenna elements.
I remember seeing it sitting at home. My dad used to have a 6-meter beam, and the antenna coax was on the ceiling above the receiver. He disconnected, and during a lightning storm, you could hear the coax snapping between the center lead and the ground every time there was a lightning strike within about 20 miles.
That was my next story. I put up a 160-meter center fed vertical fed with open wire line. And I was in the shack getting ready to put a balun on the ladder line that came in, and I kept hearing this snapping and cracking, and looked over, and it was arcing across the two conductors on the end of the ladder line. That's like 8/10 of an inch.
Yeah, don't put your tongue on that one.
Don't put your tongue on that one.
Yeah, antennas do receive broadband when they're supposed to. They do work. That physics gets you every time. Anyway.
I am.
I got a scoot, guys. 7-3.
7-3, Steve.
See you, Steve.
Take care, Steve.
Bye-bye.
Hope you get better.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate
it. So Jim, kind of what's your longer term plan for this page? Because like you said, you've got a lot of, I guess you'd call it inline text now. It requires a lot of scrolling. You're talking about doing some things in PDFs. I'm just trying to think of what where you're trying to head with this thing. And now that we got some of the concepts down on paper, so to speak, what do you want to do to clean it up?
Well, the first thing is I'm going to take starting here with the parts list. I want to make put the parts list of the PDF somewhere, and then just link it from this slide, from this page. Same thing for this other list of parts. Same thing for the schematic, and same thing for the PC layouts. So
could you put those links up to the GitHub page, or that stuff already exists in folders up in the cloud?
Yeah, I guess I could do it from GitHub, but is everything up there already?
They're so small. I think I've just put it for responsiveness, just put it on the web page. I mean, Christina should be able to help you with the hyperlink when you click on it. It should ask where you want to download it.
Yeah, I just know what she did on this one up here that Gary wrote. Is she just put it on another page, a private page on the website, and then it's linked to that on this page. And I wanted to put the others on the same page, but I couldn't get into it to paste them, to put them on that page. So I need to get a hold of her, and it slipped my mind to ask again later. I think that's the easy thing to do, is that I can just put them on that same page, and I'll link to all of them. And then that way, well, there'll be some scrolling anyway, but to get to the real stuff you need, it'll just be a matter of clicking on that. Then you get the PDF on your computer. You can either copy and paste like I did, or you can print it out, which I ultimately did too.
Actually, the one you want to put on there is the special one I created, which is the CSV file that you can download the DigiKey, and automatically imports the entire parts list and puts it in your cart.
Okay, I didn't realize that that was working.
Yeah, you can just do a download and that I'll just, boom, it shows up, it's done.
Is
John,
that,
that is a wonderful, wonderful idea. I mean, that's really
It's
great.
so easy to mistype or miss if you're.
Right,
copying
yeah, the
and
type-
Oh,
pasting
yeah,
and
exactly. I
just-
agree.
oh, easily. Where
I've
is
set
that?
up so many times doing that, so it's like, the other people would have the same problem I am, so I just, there is a CSV file up there that does that. I did try and it works.
I think, so if you
Where-
reload
where
right
is that?
now,
Where is
I-
that, John?
Oh, let me take a look and find it.
I'm sorry, Nathan, go ahead.
yeah, if you reload right now, I have it so that the, I rotated the schematic.
Oh, look at that.
And if you click it, it'll become bigger.
Yes,
Oh,
Okay.
very cool.
And so
Very
then
good.
I noticed something else, the way you're saving the images here. You're saving them as like they're embedded right into the page themselves rather than saved as files on the server. And
that's correct. Yeah, that's what I wanted to get away from. But I didn't have any way to put the file on the server.
Okay. Do you want, I mean, let's see. So you're not able to log in and edit that page right now?
I should be able to right now, yes.
Because I can show you here. I'll show you how to do it. Let me share my screen for a minute so I can show you what I'm doing.
Okay, what do I need to do? Get it? Okay,
Okay, just so what I'm going to do first is this is the front of the board, right?
right.
So I'm going to hit save image as, and I'm going to call this, I'm just saving it to my downloads folder for the moment. So I'll call this grape one front.png. And then we have another one here that we can save as grape one back.png. Okay, so I've got those two in. And now
Also,
all of these,
I just put a link in there for the thing. If you look for the digikey_bomb.csv, that's the file you upload.
yeah.
It's
And
in the
actually,
link there.
one of the things I want to do here, so if you click this, see this little toolbar here?
Mm-hmm.
You see this window here?
Yeah.
IMCE, cryptically named. If you click that, that lets you access all the files on the server.
Oh, okay.
Now, one thing I see you, I'm not sure if I can drag and drop these to different, because I actually would like to move this grape directory to inside the pages folder. As you see here, I have pages and then this all. So I think I'd like to move that into there. And that may actually require me logging into the server and changing some things around this way.
Yeah, it's pretty drastic.
Yeah, there might be another way to do it. This is the fastest way I know how to do it. So if I go here, I go here, then I can go so then I think it's under default files. Yeah, there's the grape. So if I move grape to pages, there now I move that directory around. That's of course going to affect this path here, file. But if I just say pages there, that takes care of that. And then if I go down to here, I do the same thing. I say /pages and I hit save. That
Stand
should
back. It might
didn't break
fall.
it. I didn't break it yet. Okay, so then the
I'm
other thing,
impressed.
these two, PCB top and bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So what we can do for that, I hit edit here. And great. So if I just double click this guy now, in this URL, if I delete that and I hit browse server, then I get here, and then I can go to the,
Great.
I thought I got rid of that.
Well, it's under pages.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It is under pages. So, okay, we're good. Yeah, so grape. And then here, once you're here, you can hit upload. And so I can upload those 2 files I just downloaded, or add files. It's not totally intuitive.
Not for the faint of heart.
No,
No.
it's not.
It's supposed to be, and I can just double click that and it's in. Now here, if I actually delete those dimensions and I put under advanced style sheet classes image dash responsive, it's now going to automatically adjust its size for like whatever screen size you're using.
Okay.
Somebody's
Yeah.
done this before.
Yeah. Again,
I
not,
wish I had your knowledge on this.
well, I guess it's a rather specialized knowledge, but
I've really got to redo my website. It's long in the tooth.
all right.
My
So if
free
you go
time.
down here, you know,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
there's something, yeah, but let's see. So the responsive part, yeah, see there, it automatically resizes all of this. And this way, if you're on a smartphone, you can still see it. But now the thing is, like right here, the way I have it set up right now is if it's smaller and you can't click on it, it doesn't make it bigger. So the trick for that, I think there's something else I can do too. So here, if I take the URL and I also put it under the link part, that will allow you to always make it bigger. Even if
Wow.
you're on a smartphone, it'll take care of that. So then you can, so now when you scroll down, it's full size there, but you click on it and it gets you there.
That's pretty slick.
Yeah, now this part, yeah, and see even like the PDF thing, this way it works on your smartphone or your tablet or whatever size window you have. And I think there's, what I usually do is I go to old pages I've created and I look at what I did there to remember how to do these things.
Yeah.
I think there's, that one's not it. I'm trying to see if I have one where I'm like happy with making it full sized. There's like another image class I thought I wanted. Maybe not. What do I do for all of these? Edit. Like here, advanced. I did center block and image responsive. So the center block, make sure that it's actually centered on the page. So you can go edit. And then you can, yeah, these are all the things that I would not expect other people to know. Advanced.
Yeah, that's intuitive.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm not the only one.
So I tell my students about VI. It's so intuitive. Okay, that's all looking really good. And I mean, I can just do this right here while I'm at it. I can just change this to getting started, hit enter, double click that, change that to like a heading 1. The purpose, make that, come on. It's oh yeah, for some reason, if you are like full screen, sometimes some of these other buttons don't work for some reason.
Another intuitive aspect.
Yes.
I picked Drupal because I thought this would be a, logical choice of a website
Uh-huh.
that, you know,
That's free.
everyone that's free. It's widely used. I mean, as far as I understand, whitehouse.gov uses Drupal. So like, why shouldn't I? And
I'd
like
never
this-
heard of it. I'd never heard of it before.
it's what you call a content management system. So I mean, in some ways it did do what it was supposed to do, because Jim was in fact able to get on here and he
Yeah.
was actually able to, you know, build the website with perhaps minimal intervention from Christina and me, or with some help. But so you don't actually need to know like HTML, but certainly to get to the point where you are getting around some of these little stylistic things, you kind of need to know more of what's going on here. And if you're the only person writing the web page, and it's easy to remember all these stylistic things, but if you're not the only person writing the web page and you're new to this, but that
Thank
just makes it look a little,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think the other thing we can do, as I was showing people earlier, if you click on projects, I'm probably going to have to sign off in a minute. I actually have to go do other things for classes and for school. But if we click on personal space weather station, I mean, some of these presentations, they kind of need to be updated here, get involved. What I can do for now, let's see, hamsci.org working page. What is, we can also say, build a grape version 1. And then I can click here and I just type grape 1. Is that the right thing?
Yes.
Great. And it would actually complain if it wasn't the right thing. So then you click here. So now, you know, it's not very widely publicized, but now you can actually, you know, just go to the front Hamsci page. You can click projects, you can click personal space weather station, and you can click build a grape version 1. Now you get there.
Wow. That would have taken me 4 hours. If I got
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, well, I could not have done what you guys have done with all these schematics and writing all this other stuff out. So I greatly appreciate it. This looks amazing. So I
So
think,
I would still like to,
Yeah.
I think get it down to where the way you're getting the page looking now is great. I like it a lot better.
yeah,
If we can get those into individual PDFs that you can click on, rather than have them embedded, that will make it easier if somebody wants to print them out. Like,
so
I keep
what do you
printing
mean
out-
by that? Get which part into individual PDFs?
well, starting right there, yeah, with the parts list and the schematic, I want to be able to click on that schematic, say, be able to print out a PDF. I keep one by my bench the whole time I'm working on it.
Yeah. Why is that not working? That's missing the link there. That one, files. Oh, that's funny. Better fix that. Hamsci login. And then I want to try to build a grape version 1. That looks good. The other thing to do is test it in a incognito window where there's no cache stored.
I didn't even know you could do that.
What, the incognito window?
Yeah.
I didn't either. I had to actually save it and then go out and come in like any user would and look at it.
Yeah, so there's 2 modes. I'll show you that in a minute. I apparently have the oh, I see what I did. I updated it in one place, but not the other. So, right. So if you ever want to test this, there's a couple ways you can do it. I'm in Chrome. So if I click on my name here, you can either, one way to do it is you click guest when you're browsing as a guest. As soon as you close the guest window, it will delete all the cookies from that particular session. So this is a really good way to work in one window. So now this guest session is not logged in under my account, and I can see what things look like here in the guest session. And test them out here. And then over in this window, this one is logged in, and I can make edits and changes and then reload it right here. And then and every time you close out the guest window and open a new one, it will clear out all of the history and the cookies and everything. So that way it's like you're coming to it, the page fresh, and you don't have to worry about some stale cache messing you up.
Well, Chrome lets you right click on one of those PC board images and download it and print them, because that's what Jim's trying to get to. If it'll do that from here.
Yeah, you just hit save
as.
save
So that-
image as. And
Right,
you
so that may have
save
to,
it.
that may save the PDF stuff, make it not necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah,
mean, so-
that's another way to do it. Yeah, that would
Yeah,
work.
so all of these images, they're downloadable. And you click on any of them and it opens it into a new tab.
Beautiful.
So, there I can, it will print now to my printer that size on a letter sheet of paper.
So that's pretty, I mean, that's very user friendly.
Great. So, yeah, I think that should help a lot.
Well, I think the thing to do, maybe Jim and I and you and I and Joe or John, whomever, back and forth in email, think about what the next steps are, because we need to, we talked about maybe having some checks for power up and current and voltage, how to load the Raspberry Pi image, programming the GPS DO. There's still a lot of steps once you've got that PC board built, so you've got a running system. So
Yeah, I wrote that document and I think I sent it to Joe. He reviewed it. I also sent it to Dave Schwartz, who reviewed it. But there is a complete 7-page document on how to create the OS image and get the whole system, setting up the whole operating system and all of the parameters you need to set to get a working station from an OS image off the website. That does exist. So we probably should post that up there too.
Yeah, could you send that to Gary and me? And I'll get that set up too.
Okay.
Now, as I said, I'm gonna have to go soon because I have to see how Rachel and Anthony are doing, and I need to write an exam and write
See,
some
the house
notes.
is still there?
Yeah, see, I'm still in the house, so I mean that's. But let's see.
You get worried when things get quiet.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
So-
very.
Right. So this is beautiful. So my question to everyone, as I said earlier today, I'm interested. I kind of want to go into a summer mode where we cut back on the number of meetings. So we'll still have the Monday night Tangerine SDR meeting, and we'll still have the Thursday morning Case Western meeting, but then we won't have the Ham-Sci biweekly telecons till the fall. Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
yeah, that makes a
Okay.
lot of sense. It's summer, especially now, people want to get outside and travel and stuff. We all want to break
Yeah.
out. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, right now I'm doing, and these are just the Ham-Sci telecons I'm doing. So I'm like doing all these telecons, and yeah, Thursday afternoons, people want to do some nice things in the summer. So I think I'll send an email out to the listserv later, basically saying we'll be in summer mode and we'll come back with the Ham-Sci biweekly telecons in the fall, and enjoy your summer. Come to these other ones, and then Christina is very open to having people come to the Thursday morning ones, and there's a lot of good stuff that happens there specifically about the GREEP. So if you guys are able to come to that, that's a great place to talk about this. And if we end up having to need to have like parallel discussions or something, we can use breakout rooms or things like that.
Okay.
And the other thing too, Jim, remember, is that any of us can create a Zoom meeting too. If you and I wanted to work on something, I think it's free for up to like 40 minutes, and we can get a lot done if we wanted to work on something together.
Well, we can do better than that. I mean, believe it or not, this Zoom link that you're using right now is actually always active. So you
Oh.
can
Oh.
always click on it, and it's kind of like a chat room. So you can just use the same link. So I won't delete the link. I'll just say that we're not having bi-weekly meetings until, you know, the fall, but the link will still be there, and you can still hop on here, and you can, I don't think you can record without being a host, but you can certainly, you know, you can be on here as long as you want, as far as I understand, and talk about things. So
Yeah, that can be done. And yes, I've used the freebie 40-minute limit, which I think they took off, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I've used that, and that's useful.
yeah. So I
A
think
lot of people got around that 40-minute limit just by hanging up and starting again.
Yeah. We can do that if we have to.
Well, I'm gonna say 7-3 for today. Thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you. And
Yeah, thank you for teaching us a few things.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
You're
I got two
welcome.
questions real quick.
Yeah.
Would anybody have a problem if I designed a PC board of the Grape going with through hole components?
I don't have a problem with it.
You picked the surface mount version so you could make it small. That was the only reason.
Yeah, because it's got to go on a much bigger board, so.
Okay.
yeah, for the Grape too, you need that.
Yeah, and the other question I
Maybe
had,
more
I
of these
got an
boards.
8640B signal generator, which I just understand can be a face locked to a GPS. Is there some reason I couldn't use that rather than the face lock GPS we've got in the parts list?
As long as you get the signal level correct into the mixer, there's no reason you can't.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
square
I
wave is actually preferred because it keeps the diodes biased on longer rather than a sine wave.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the spec for the part, I want to say it was 400 millivolts peak to peak or 700. I don't remember. I wrote it on the schematic. And I do divide it down from the 3.3 volts that's coming in, but yeah.
Yeah, I haven't even looked at the thing to see if there really is an input in the back for a, 10 megahertz or 5 megahertz reference. So
Yeah.
gotta dig into the back and see if it's really true. But
I think you probably can. Yeah, that would be another way to do it.
okay.
It does have to be GPS locked or have that kind of stability.
The only
Does the
disadvantage of that,
Bodnar put out TTL or a different level?
I'm gonna go, everyone.
Okay, take care,
7-3.
Nathaniel.
You guys can stay
Later,
on.
Nathaniel.
So,
Okay, thanks.
you're
It's
welcome.
basically TTL level, yeah. A little bit
Yeah,
less.
I was thinking you could just add to the schematic or documentation somewhere what the signal level is that it's expecting. And then we can set up a
Should be on the schematic already.
general function generator frequency synthesizer to meet that.
It's on the schematic already.
Oh, okay. Because a lot of us have stuff in the lab that we can program.
Yeah, for the way I have it attenuated, it's expecting a 3.3 volt peak signal in, and it creates the correct level into the mixer.
Yeah, and
Right.
that is on here. That is on here, yeah.
So that's already there.
Yeah, I like the idea of running the stuff I've already got for zero cost rather than buying $120 other part.
Sure. I've got a great tale of woe on GPS disciplined oscillators. I decided I needed another one a few months ago. And so I found one on eBay that looked like it'd be good. It's shipped out of China, but this particular vendor had a lot of, had good rating. A lot of people bought from them. So I bought it. And I had moved last August from the north side of Atlanta to the south side of Atlanta to be close to one of our daughters. And I had changed my billing address in eBay, but I had not noticed that the shipping address was different. And I noticed that my old address was in for shipping right after I clicked send. So I sent a quick message to the seller asking him to redirect it to this address. Didn't happen. It got sent to the old address. But no matter, I've kind of gotten to be friends with the guy who bought that house, and made arrangements with him that when it came, he would just hang on to it, and I'd get up there and I'd pick it up when I could. So no big deal, except that we have a very, very conscientious letter carrier up there, and she caught that it was a change of address. So she sent it back to the post office for forwarding here. That's great, except that it's been 5 weeks now and I haven't seen it. And I wound up on the phone yesterday with somebody in the post office up there. Very nice person. And this is the second time I've done this. If you're missing a package, there's a form you can fill out on the post office website. I sent that in within 10 minutes. The guy had called me, and just as nice and helpful as he could be. But he said that something was done wrong when the package came overseas. Was one shipper, and it was delivered handed to the post office after it got here. It had the other shipper's tracking number on it, and he was able to go into their website, and yes, he saw where the post office had gotten it. But he said at that point, a post office tracking number should have been created, and it wasn't. And so he's having a hard time tracing it. And he's supposed to be working on it and call me back when he learned something, but I haven't heard from him. That was yesterday morning. I'm still waiting to hear from him. And so I don't know whether I'm going to get that thing or not.
Yeah.
And then I've done some reading since then. They don't always come really quite set up right. You sometimes need to add some software. And the website I was reading was kind of vague about what that had to be. And software is not my thing, but we'll see what happens if and when I get it. Fortunately, it was not one of the more expensive ones. It was one of the cheaper ones. Since then, I've seen a more expensive one that I'm kind of have a hankering for. So I may just go on and order that and have two of them. Plus, I got the Bodner unit, and I have an ancient Hewlett-Packard branded GPS DO back in the 80s that I had working at the other house, but I haven't been able to talk to it since I've been down here. I don't know why.
Is that a Z3801?
Yes,
Yeah, that's what I'm using for mine.
Okay.
I've got two of them.
Yeah. I have, I suspect that is the best short and medium term phase stability of any of these guys.
Yeah, it goes the Leo Bodnar away.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. But
kind of weird because it runs on a minus 48 volt supply.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
I built in a 48 volt switcher right into mine, so it just runs off 110 or 120.
Well, yeah, I've got a store bought switcher that I run it off of, and it was running great at my other house, but I haven't been able to get it to show lock down here. And when I tried to go in, let's see, I had changed computers because I had an old XP, an ancient XP. It was giving me trouble, so I just threw it out when I moved. Then I found out that, well, the software that talks to the GPS DO.
The GPS Con software?
The what?
GPS Con version 1.36.
I don't remember what it was, but
runs
it won't,
on XP only.
It won't load under the modern operating systems.
Exactly.
So I
actually run under Linux, by the way.
What's that?
It'll run under Linux under the Wine editor.
Oh, okay.
That's how I'm running mine.
Might try that. But all my computers at the moment are Windows, and it won't run under that. And I had a Windows 7 computer, which will load the software, but for some reason it won't talk to the darned GPS DO. I haven't figured that out yet. Physically, a physical layer, it looks like everything is running right, but it just just won't work.
Excuse me, I'm going QRT. 73, we'll catch you the next time.
We'll see
Sorry,
you.
Jay Clear.
I get to get out of here too, I think.
I'm trying to find the email address for, well, I got Jim's, but it was the other guy.
Gary?
Gary. Does he have some weird, is it GMIKITNAF8A?
I don't remember right now. Let me see if I even have it on here. I keep that stuff on my other computer. And I don't have it on my phone.
I'm on the Hamside Grape mailing list, and I think his last name is.
It's Mikitin, Mikitin.
Okay. And it's AF8A. Yeah, that's him. Okay, I
Yeah.
got it.
Okay.
I want to send you guys the 7.5 page write-up I did on the complete setup for a grape station from my distro of the compressed OS image.
Yeah, that would be useful. That needs to go on the website too.
Yeah.
I'll get that up there.
Jim, on the regarding that HP software and the incompatibility with, the current Windows, in just to offer a Blue Moon question, have you tried that compatibility mode? Once in a while it works. Once in a blue moon it works, but not very often with old software.
I have indeed tried it. It did not work.
That's
Yeah,
expectations with that,
about a 10 to 20% hit rate.
Yeah,
Once
I was in the majority there.
Occasionally, it does work. It just sort of, tricks you to think that it's a solution when it's really not.
Yeah.
What
No,
RS-232 port do you have?
Well, I'm having to go through the conversion from USB to RS-232. I've tried several of those cables, different brands of converter chips, and I haven't found anything yet that worked. I was working at the other place, but I can't find it here.
Yeah, I try to stay away from Windows 10 as much as I can.
Well, I got dragged kicking and screaming into it, but I didn't have much of a choice.
The only reason I run it on one of my systems is my Flex requires it.
Uh-huh.
I hate it. I absolutely hate it. If people knew what an OS is supposed to do, Microsoft would go out of business overnight.
Well, yeah, Microsoft does a decent operating system every other operating system they publish.
And there's also a big to-do that it was just discovered that Microsoft is putting a preferred key into the Raspbian OS for the Raspberry Pi, such they can write and read any system files they want to and install software on your Raspberry Pi. And it goes back to their server every time you do a system upgrade.
I didn't know that's in Raspbian.
Raspbian, yeah. There's a fix for it, but it came out in January and nobody noticed it.
I did not know about
There's a
that.
specific GPG key that they're installing that gives them a preferred status to be able to, as root, install software on the Raspberry OS. Which really,
I know that.
really sucks.
Yes.
I killed that immediately. Anyway.
I didn't know that.
I'm trying to find the document. I'll get that in the mail to you. I don't want to waste time here.
Okay, thanks.
I'm going to say 7.3s.
Yeah, I got to scoot too. I will see you fine people later.
Take care. 7.3s. Stay healthy.
As well, we'll keep in touch with the other web meetings.
Yep.
Yep.
Have a great summer.
You too.
Same to you.